Hey guys, welcome back to Sparkman Homestead. My name is Krista. I'm going to do a voiceover for the beginning part of this video because I was outside and I was talking and the wind was so bad that none of the audio is going to work. So what I'm doing here is I'm just showing you guys some little garden updates. So my radishes are doing amazing. My asparagus is finally starting to pop up and we have all of our onions planted. Actually, sorry, not all of our onions. I got all of my yellow onions planted and the rest I have to wait to do until we kind of get over this flooding weather. So here are my beets. They're all starting to pop up. This time of year is just amazing because there's so much stuff just popping up in the garden. This was a fun update that I wanted to show you guys. This was actually a new garden bed that I had put in the front of my garden. My hopes is that this will help with some of the weeds that tend to creep up the side of the garden and I have to come in with the weed whacker. I'm hoping that this will kind of control it a little bit. Plus, it gives me a little bit of extra gardening space. So I planted a little bit of Swiss chard in the front there. And what I'm just pointing out here is that this side of this particular bed is pretty shaded. So this bed primarily is going to be used for some herbs. So I'm gonna get some shade-loving herbs over in that corner. So another project that I had to get off my list was getting my rhubarb kind of maintenance. My rhubarb, because we've had temperatures in the high 80s, is all starting to try to flower. And rhubarb is extremely hard to grow here because we literally go from freezing cold weather to hot weather and then back to freezing cold. It's just like a little bit of a roller coaster. So my rhubarb tends to flower really early and I have to harvest it a lot earlier than I've been used to harvesting it. When we lived in Idaho, I remember harvesting it very late in the spring season, almost in the summer. So I'm trying to just shift my gears. I've lived in Kentucky now for 5 years and I'm still not used to all of the early stuff that comes up here. So I'm just getting these flowers taken off because it will cause the rhubarb to get a little bitter tasting. Now, the flowers are 100% edible. I've heard that they kind of taste like a brassica, but I'm not going to experiment with them. I'm just going to compost them. And so I realized that I should probably get some of my rhubarb harvested because I usually wait until it's too late and it gets really woody. So that's what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling my rhubarb out and getting a nice harvest of that nice and early. Another thing that I had to get harvested because I noticed that it was actually starting to bolt was my spinach. This is spinach that I had planted in the fall of 2024 and it grew nice and slow during the winter, but now that the heat is starting to become more of a daily thing, it's starting to bolt. So I had to get that harvested. Now, a lot of it had frostbite damage on it, and I decided to give that to the rabbits. They loved it, especially the little baby rabbits. They're starting to eat their own food now, so they're loving the treats that I'm giving them. So what I'm doing is just getting that spinach nice and rinsed off, and I'm running it through my salad spinner just to get it dry. My plan with this spinach is to put most of it in the freezer. I love having spinach in the freezer. It's really easy to add to soups or just like saute in like pasta dish. So I am just kind of getting it all clean. I did save quite a bit of it for the fridge to have some spinach salad with. I tasted some of the little leaves and they are so tender and delicious. Having a little bit of frost kind of helped make that spinach really sweet and tender. So this is what I'm going to put into the freezer. Now spinach, it does have to be blanched before you freeze it. It has to be blanched for 2 minutes in boiling water. So after I got it all washed up, I have my water boiling there and I'm going to add the spinach. I'm going to get a bowl of ice water started, and then once the 2 minutes is up, I'm going to add that spinach immediately into that ice water to stop the cooking process. The reason why you want to blanch the spinach before you put it into the freezer is because it helps with the enzymes and it kind of keeps its color better and keeps the nutrients better. So whatever I'm blanching, so in this case, I'm blanching the spinach for 2 minutes. I always like to leave it in the ice water for as long as I blanch it for. So we're going to leave the spinach in here for 2 minutes. After the 2 minutes, we're going to take it out of the water. Now this water would be really amazing to save to put on top of your garden. Just let it cool down a little bit. So we're going to just kind of squeeze out some of that water from the spinach. I didn't want to squeeze it too much because I didn't want to like take any of the spinach juice out of it. So I'm just giving it a light little squeeze to get some excess water out of it. You can definitely put this on a towel and let this dry before you put it into the freezer, but I just skipped that step and just gave it a little squeeze. I'm going to put it on my cookie sheet, and then I'm going to put that in the freezer. This went in the freezer overnight, and then in the morning what I did was just take it off of the cookie sheet because it's nice and frozen now, and I'm just going to get it vacuum sealed. I always like to flash freeze it first because with that moisture, it doesn't really vacuum seal very good and you have a higher chance of freezer burn. So I always like to do this like flash freezing it. So we're just going to get this put into baggies. I didn't weigh it out, but I think a standard bag of spinach that you get at the grocery store, like frozen spinach, I think it's around 12 ounces. So I was just kind of eyeballing this, put them in these vacuum sealer bags. I do have these vacuum sealer bags linked below for you guys in the video description. These are my go-to vacuum sealers. I've been using them for probably about 4 years now, and I love them. They're really great. So here is my spinach to head into the freezer. It's not very much, but we are getting some kale planted as well. And for me, kale and spinach are really interchangeable. So because we have a lot of kale in the garden, I'm not too concerned with having this amount of spinach in the freezer. Plus, I'll grow more in the fall. So I'm going to get my rhubarb put into the fridge. I did not have time on this particular day to deal with it. So what I wanted to do was just cut the leaves off. Now, the leaves of rhubarb are toxic, so you do not want to save the leaves. I don't give them to my animals either because again, I have read that they are toxic. So they just go right into my compost, which is fine. They'll break down and it doesn't do anything to the compost. I'm just going to put these in a grocery bag and leave them in the fridge until I have time to deal with them. So let's jump ahead to the very next day. I have a very fun activity that I'm excited to do with you guys. We're in the kitchen today because I went out yesterday and did a whole bunch of foraging, and I thought it would be really, really fun to do an experiment. I've never done this before, and it's always been on my kind of to-do list of wanting to experiment and do it. Today we are going to make some dandelion jelly. We're going to use some Pomona's pectin to make it so that we can use honey in it. So no sugar in this recipe, which I'm excited to do. I've heard that even when you use sugar with this, that this does have a little bit of a honey taste to it. So we're gonna see. It's definitely gonna have a honey taste to it because we're using honey in it. So gotta get my honey out. I have my jars already in my water bath canner and they're just getting warm. We do have to have these jars sterilized because we are only water bath canning these for 5 minutes, I believe. I'll leave the recipe linked for you guys below in the video description. So because we are water bath canning them for under 10 minutes, we have to sterilize them first. So I have them sitting in my water bath canner, getting nice and warm. I have a really big pot here so that we can make the mixture. I like to use a really big pot when I'm making any type of jam or jelly because it tends to boil really high, and I do not like to clean up jelly all over my stove top. I also have my lids sitting in the water. We'll just turn those on closer to when we're gonna get ready to actually can. So this is kind of a little bit of a process to make this. So yesterday I went outside and I picked a whole bunch of dandelions from my yard. Now, if you are going to make this dandelion jelly, I strongly, strongly recommend using dandelions you know have not been sprayed, nothing at all on them. So I don't spray anything on my yard. We don't use any type of chemicals anywhere near our yard or in our garden. So I know that these dandelions haven't been sprayed with anything, but if you are just going and picking them from a park, I would use extreme caution with that because I don't know what they would have been sprayed with. So make sure you know where the dandelions came from and, you know, the history of the dandelion. But I went out yesterday and picked a whole bunch of dandelions. I did it yesterday because it probably won't focus out there, but we are getting slammed with rain right now. We had an insane amount of tornadoes come through yesterday. Our phone, starting at about 7 o'clock last night, kept going off. I have never spent as much time in that storm shelter as I have this last week. It's just been non-stop, but last night was bad. I had finally fallen asleep at 1 a.m. and then all of a sudden my phone went off, the sirens started going off outside, and I do not like getting woken up that way. Anyways, last night was a little bit of a rough night. We were kind of in and out. Anyways, just reel it back to my point with the dandelions. I went and picked them yesterday because we are getting a whole bunch of rain today. You do not want to pick the dandelions when they are wet. You want to make sure that the dandelion is pretty dry and that it is completely open. If the dandelion is closed when you're picking it, it means that it's not matured yet, and you want to make sure that they are nice and open when you pick them. So I spent about half an hour picking dandelions from my yard. I didn't have time immediately after I picked them to get them processed because I was busy doing my other gardening stuff. I got my broccoli and my cauliflower and all of that in the ground. So I ended up leaving them sit in this bowl for probably maybe about 3 or 4 hours. So by the time it came for me to actually get all the green off of them, they had already closed up, but they were wide open when I picked them. So I know that they were fully mature. Sorry, I thought I just heard the sirens go off again. Ugh, it's the garbage truck, I think. Anyways, oh, no sleep is not good. Anyways, when you are getting these dandelions processed, you want to make sure that there is not any greens going into this tea that we're going to make. The greens tend to make it a tad bit bitter, so you want to make sure that you're just getting that yellow white part of the dandelion. So you are going to use a quart-sized jar, at least for this recipe, for the amount of jelly we're making today. You want to do this in a quart-sized jar. So what you're going to do is you're going to get all of the greens off of the dandelion. So what I ended up doing was just cutting the very tip of the dandelion and then just going around and peeling all of that green off. This project took me probably about 5 hours to do. I was not anticipating it taking that long to peel all of these dandelions. But in my defense, I had to stop twice to go into the storm shelter because the sirens were going off and we had to seek shelter right away. So the project took me a little bit longer than normal. But anyways, got them all done. Once I got all of the peelings put into this quart-sized jar, you want to make sure that you fill that quart-sized jar to the very top with dandelions and then push it down once you get to the very top. And then you're going to pour hot water over top of it. You want to make sure that you can get 4 cups of boiling water over top of these dandelions. I did not show this on the video clip, but I ended up having to pour this into a half-gallon jar in order to fit the full 4 cups of the water in here. So you want to let that sit for a minimum of at least 5 hours, preferably overnight, which is what I did. So in the morning, once that mixture had sat all night, I just strained the dandelions out of it. I used a Mechlin cloth to do that, and it's just because you want to make sure that you're catching all of the dandelions. One thing the recipe says is that you can squeeze the bag to make sure you're getting all of that moisture out. So we did that. It has been sitting here for a while. So this is our dandelion tea that we're left with. So we're gonna make jelly with this tea. Like I said, it's a little bit of a process to make this, but I have heard really, really good things about this jelly. So I'm excited, and I'm also really hopeful that I got most of the greens out because the recipe did state that the greens do make it a tad bit bitter. So I'm hoping. Okay, so we got our honey out. We're gonna use that. We have our Pomona pectin because we are using the honey. The recipe that I have linked for you guys is a Pomona's recipe. So if you want to use sugar in this, there are a lot of recipes on Google. Just put in dandelion jelly and you'll find numerous amounts of recipes. But the one I am using is a Pomona's one. And I don't, oh, there it is. So what we have to do is we need to make the calcium water up first. I haven't made Pomona's jelly in a really long time, so I forget how to make the calcium powder. But it does come with a little pamphlet in all of the boxes explaining, and it does actually tell you if you want to do like a low sugar or honey recipe. It gives you directions here, and then on the other side it says a stevia sweetener or no sweetener. So you have a couple of different options with Pomona's. Dandelion is not on this chart. It's not a normal jelly that you make, so they don't have the directions on here. We'll get half a teaspoon of this calcium powder. And if you don't use all of this calcium powder that you make, you can actually just store this in the fridge and reuse it for a recipe later on. pretty much is half a teaspoon in this bag. So let's put that bag in there. And then I have half a cup of some filtered water. Let's get one of my plastic lids and then we'll just shake this really good. It does stress to shake it really, really good. And I'm kind of leaking everywhere. These are supposed to be leak proof and I am leaking. This recipe that I'm using had some really cool fun facts about dandelions. It does state that all parts of the dandelion is edible, which I knew that because a lot of salad mix actually have dandelion leaves in them. It is very, very common to have that in like a spring mix. So definitely all parts of the dandelion is edible. So even if you do get some of the greens in your tea mixture, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to make it toxic by any means, but it's just gonna, from what the recipe says, it's just gonna make it a tad bit bitter. Dandelions were actually brought over to America from Europe and Asia for their health benefits. Dandelion is such a underrated weed. People, I don't know why they spray to get rid of it. I was thinking about this yesterday when I was picking the flowers. I'm like, no wonder kids always pick dandelions and bring them to their mom because they are really, really beautiful. And the one thing too with dandelions is that is the one flower that is actually out there for the bees to get pollen from. If you can avoid it, definitely leave those dandelions for a little bit longer, just so that the bees have something to eat while we're waiting for the other stuff to come into season. Yeah, so those are the fun facts about the dandelions. Okay, so we also need to get some lemon juice. I'm just trying to find out how much we need. Okay, so we need a 1/4 cup of lemon juice. So I have a little bit over 4 cups of this dandelion tea. The recipe says if you want to get very precise, you're going to use 3 1/4 cup of the dandelion tea. So I am going to get precise because this is the very first time that I'm making this recipe and I really would like to follow it to the T to make sure that I'm doing everything right. That way, if it doesn't turn out right, then I can maybe try a different recipe or just think that I don't like dandelion jelly. You can use this reserved dandelion tea and drink it just as a tea. You know what, we should just, it smells very earthy. Let's just see what it tastes like. It's cold, so we might not get a very good, accurate reading, but let's just see. I'm curious to see what it tastes like, just by itself without any sweetener. It's weird. It kind of has like a mushroom taste. It tastes very, I don't want to say earthy, but I do get how people describe it as tasting very honey-like. I do like that. So I'm going to actually save this and then I'm going to heat it up and just drink it. Just have a dandelion tea. It tastes how dandelions smell. I don't know if my description is not the best. And we are going to add our strained dandelion tea into this pot. I think this pot might be overkill, but that's okay. Better safe than sorry. Okay, and then we're gonna add our 1/4 cup of lemon juice. I am just using bottled lemon juice for this. The recipe doesn't state whether to use freshly squeezed or bottle. Freshly squeezed is always the optimal choice to make. Like if you have the option to use freshly squeezed or bottle, definitely use freshly squeezed, but I don't, so we are going to use bottled. Work with what you got. Okay, so we're gonna add that to the oversized pot. We're gonna give this calcium water one more quick little shake. We need to add 4 teaspoons of this calcium water to this pot. 2, 3, 4. Okay, and then it says to stir it. Actually, it says to whisk it. We'll get the whisk out and we'll whisk it together. Okay, and then we need to put this on the stovetop and bring this to a boil. I'm gonna turn my back burner on to a medium just to get these jars nice and hot. One thing with jelly is it comes together really, really quickly, so you need to make sure that you have all of your components kind of out ready to get used. Okay, so it says, while the mixture is heating up, measure out 1½ cups of honey into a separate bowl. I'm gonna use one of my nesting bowls because I can tip it. I don't mean tip it, I mean pour it. These nesting bowls have little pour spouts on the side of them. There's a big one and a little one. I love using vintage Pyrex. Let's go and check out the front window. This is where all of the storms have been coming from. They are all coming from the west, southwest. But look at all the flooding over there. If the camera will pick it up. That pasture, that's all setting water. It's starting to creep into our pasture. It's literally a lake. I don't know if it's gonna show you, but those clouds are moving fast. Of course, the camera makes it look slow. As I mentioned in last week's video, Stephen's father is staying with us, and he is from California, and he is getting quite the Kentucky ride this week. He's like, y'all are not convincing me to want to move here because this is insane. It's definitely been a week. But it's almost like you get desensitized to all of the tornado warnings because honestly, here in the South, we get them every other day. So it's like you've just kind of got to be, I know it's cliche to say this, but you have to be weather aware and just knowing what the signs of when a bad storm is going to come in. The sky looks a certain color when it is going to be a pretty bad storm. Like usually it looks almost like a greenish color. When the sky turns green, I know that we're in for a doozy. So just pay attention to the sky is pretty much what I've learned here. And I know it's bad to say, but don't always listen to all the weatherman hype because a lot of times they just need something to talk about. Alrighty, so we need to add 1.5 cups of honey to this bowl. We need to do it relatively quickly because this mixture is coming up to a boil pretty quickly. I'm getting honey everywhere. Okay, that mixture is boiling. So we need to add 4 teaspoons of this pectin powder to this bowl of honey. I'm just gonna turn that down a little bit because it is boiling really good right now. 4 teaspoons, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have lots of pectin left in here, so we'll just put it back in the package and save that. Okay, and then we just have to whisk this pectin into the honey and just make sure that they're both incorporated. That way when you add the honey to the mixture, the pectin is good and dissolved already in the sugar. Okay, so we have to add this honey in and we're gonna slowly whisk it in as we add it. I know it's kind of hard to see. It's kind of dark under here. I don't think adding a light will help either. But it says you want to mix it until everything is incorporated. And it does say that it will foam a little bit. I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you can see a little bit of foam and that's normal. And you want to bring it back up to a boil. I'm going to switch out to a spoon so that I can get along the edges. So it says once it comes back up to a rolling boil, you want to boil it for 1 minute straight. And I'm just gonna kind of keep stirring it because I don't want anything to get burnt on the bottom. I know that when you have like sugar or honey, it tends to burn on the bottom. But I don't have it at I have it on about a medium heat. I'm thinking I may need to turn it back up a little bit because I know you want it at a pretty aggressive boil when you're making jelly. The smell is really unique. It smells like a mix of honey and yeast almost. Like, you know the smell, if you've ever driven by a brewery when they're making beer, it has that kind of yeasty smell to it. That's what this kind of smells like. Weird. So we're at a pretty good boil and I can't bring that boil down by stirring it. I also can't see very well because it's maybe a little bit of an overkill of size of pot. This makes it difficult to see. I can stir it down a little bit, so I think I'm gonna wait until it gets a touch bit more aggressive of a boil, and then I'll start the timer for the 1 minute. I can definitely still stir it down, so I'm gonna wait. Okay, I got my timer set for the 1 minute, and then once the 1 minute's up, then we will take it off of the heat. And I already have my jars all boiled here. The lids are nice and hot. Okay, the minute is up. We're gonna get that off the heat right away. I definitely boiled way too many jars because this recipe says it makes 4 half pints. So I always like to have more just in case. We are gonna fill these and leave a 1/4 inch of headspace. I don't think this is gonna make a full 4. Maybe we'll get 3 out of it. Oh, and I also did not scrape the foam off of it. I know when you make like strawberry jam or any type of jam like that, you want to scrape the foam off. I forgot to do that with this. Hopefully that's fine. It looks beautiful. Yeah, I think we're only gonna get 3 half pints. This is so super sticky. Make sure we clean the rims really good on this. So we're gonna get 3.5 half pints. So darn, I'll have to put one in the fridge and test it out. I do not want to waste any of this stuff because this was hard work, picking all of these dandelions and then getting all of the peelings off of them. I have a solid 5 hours invested in these dandelions. Okay, let's try a little bit off of this spoon. I really want to see how it tastes. It's gonna be really hot, but. Oh yeah, that is really delicious. It's weird because the tea is so strong, but it's not strong in this dandelion stuff. And you would think that it would just taste like pure honey, but it doesn't. Okay, it was worth it. It was worth all of that back pain picking the dandelions. Okay, so this one we'll leave out because that's not full. It's not safe to can. We're gonna get a clean rag and we are going to make sure that we clean these tops really good, because this is super sticky. Rim's all cleaned off, so we're gonna put our lids on and then our rings, and we're gonna tighten them to fingertip tight. And then we will get them put into our water bath canner. We need to add some more water on that. Put the lid back on, turn that heat back up. So you wanna make sure that the jars have at least 2 to 3 inches of water above that lid for safe water bath canning. So once that comes back to a full rolling boil, we're gonna start our timer for 5 minutes. This is a quick and easy recipe. We're not gonna talk about the 5 hours of prep that it took to get the dandelion tea ready, but after you're done that work, this step really comes together in under 20 minutes. It's just boom, 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 boom. That's usually how jelly is, and I love making jelly. It's such a quick and easy thing to can. So after the 5 minutes of boiling time, we're gonna come back, we're gonna take that lid off, we're gonna turn the heat off, and we're gonna remove that from the stovetop, and we're gonna let those jars sit in that water for an additional 10 more minutes. After the 10 minutes, we're gonna take them out, we're gonna let them rest on a towel for at least 12 to 24 hours for them to get a good seal, and then we get to test it out. But we actually get to test it out prior because we left a little bit for the fridge, which is really awesome. I really wanted to show you guys this little experiment that I was doing because it's such a really cool way to use a weed in your yard. Such an easy thing to do. So anyways, thanks again guys for watching, and I hope you have a good day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you on the next video. Bye guys.